Okay guys, let's go ahead and continue on with this handout series here. Works pretty quick. This again is all about creating relationships. We've started this when we were talking about the different flag shapes. I don't have a copy of that right now, but we did stuff like this. It's the relationships. It's all part of this 1 in 7 drawing method, or the 8-point drawing method. It's pretty simple. It's all about going ahead and identifying what the drawing needs to be to complete it. Obviously, the face of this T here is created with direction 7 and vertical lines. That means all the extensions have to go out in direction 1. And then we go ahead and follow the rule of relationship that says whatever the front does, the back will do the same exact thing. And then we went from the letter shapes and the flags, and then we went to the step shapes that look like this, working the same thing. Each one gets a little bit harder. We're going to go ahead and twist this up a little bit. Again, it's dealing with relationships. And this first one up here is all about making arches. And what this is exactly, I'm not really sure. You can create anything you want in your mind. But what I want you to do with this is about adding thickness and understanding how that's going to sort of lay out. If you look at it, check out the baselines of the actual object here, okay? There's always going to be these little breaks. Everywhere where there is a break in the baseline, you're going to make an arch or an oval, half of an oval that looks kind of like this, okay? Just something in there like that. I find, and you figured me out by now, is I like to do all my like things at one time. So I would go through the entire thing and I would do every arch or every opening. Now, that in itself is not very hard to do. This, in essence, is the actual real issue here, and it goes kind of like this here. Let me zoom in a little bit so it kind of looks like this here. Now there is a trick to this, just like there is everything. Once you get all the different arches placed in there, and they don't have to be perfect by any means. I think there's about 50 arches in here, and that's how we're going to grade them point-wise. But the big trick here is putting in the thickness. Okay, that's these little additions in here, heading off to either in direction 1 or in direction 7, and I'm going to show you how to do that. What you want to do is look at the baseline, okay, again the baseline of the arch. You're going to notice that on this baseline, the left hand side of this arch is actually lower than the right hand side, which is a little bit higher. So this is on a direction 1 line. So what you're always going to do is do the opposite of direction 1, which is direction 7. And then whatever the front does, the back does it. So that's how we create this concept of thickness or arch. Like things to like things, and since these are all side by side, they're going to kind of do the same exact thing. So you're going to add the thicknesses on the top side or the right hand side of the arch. Now, like everything, it's not always that easy. We're going to jump over to the other side here. Look at this one here. It's different. It's still arch. Look at the baseline. Baseline is a direction 7 line. So that means the thickness is going to be a direction 1 line, the opposite, or the inversion. So we're going to follow the same process. Which one's higher, this corner or that corner? And you're going to all agree that this one here is actually higher. So that's the side that gets the thickness. So what you're going to do is run through all of these arches, and you're going to make a determination which side the thickness goes on, and it's up to you to make that decision. Again, there's about 50 of them in here. Take your time, make sure that you go ahead and get all of them. It's a nice little trick, just sort of training your mind to start seeing things a little bit differently. Let's go to the bottom part here, and again, this shouldn't take too hard. This is going to be, again, basically relationships, but of a little bit different time. We've done relationships from top to bottom and from the front and back. This relationship on these tables are basically comparing the left side of the object, sort of like the symmetrical drawings we were doing last week. Compare the left side to the right side. Relationships. It's all about seeing relationships. So we're not going to spend too much time on the cheats here, okay? So we're going to go ahead and finish out the table. Now, I highly suggest what you do is simplify the shape or look for the big shapes or the big forms, and it's one of your vocabulary terms. If you look at this table, you're going to notice that first of all, it is really just a huge cube, right? So I'm going to lay out the rest of it in a very, very light cube. This is going to give me an idea of what's going to go on. Then I'm going to go ahead and finish out the cheats. That was pretty easy. But next we're going to do is complete the rest of the table. Some things you need to look for. Okay, one, look at what's happening here on the left corner of the table. We have this overhang, right? So I'll want to make sure that I create that overhang on this side. All right? And then we're going to place the leg in kind of like this. Easy enough to do. Again, you can go back and shade and shadow, okay? Make sure that you get that all done. I'm not going to waste time doing this here. So you should be able to figure it out. Let's go to this next table here. This one here is the same simple thing. I'm going to start off the same way. I'm going to create the big shape or the big form. When you look at it, you can obviously all of these are just going to be cubes. I know what the cube generally is going to be at. And then what I'm going to do is follow the rule of relationship, which is a little bit different. It's a little bit harder. We're going to add thickness here. And then we're going to put a leg here just like we did on the first one. And we're going to put a leg on the back one, kind of like this. But this is going to be a little bit different. Whatever the left-hand side does, the right-hand side does the same thing, but the opposite. So we're going to add its thicknesses. But then look what's happening right over here. This is a little bit different, all right? So we're going to go ahead and figure that out. Let's do this middle leg. This comes over. You can't see it because it goes behind the leg. And then it pops out over here. And it goes into the side of this leg. And then comes down like this here. All right? Shade and shadow, figure it all out, all right? Now, that's the general idea. Sort of work your way through keeping this up. Don't forget to darken in your baselines, making these a little bit different, a little bit of line variance, shade and shadow. So you can see how this little game is going to be played, all right? Each table gets harder and harder to do, and again, it's a challenge to figure out whether or not you can figure out what the puzzle is. Again, do the best you can. That's what we're looking for, and we'll see how you do when I look at these later on. Have a good morning.